Gibson ES335 versus Collings i30. Welcome to Battle of the Brands, the new series where we compare two guitars to see which one is top dog. On my left here we have the Gibson ES335, the classic staple from 1964, and on the right here we have the Collings i30, the modern contender to the ES style instrument. So the real question is, which guitar is going to be the ultimate ES style instrument? Well, in today's video, we're going to find out. So without further ado, let's get straight into this Squealing Pig Guitars episode. Hello guitarists, welcome back to Squealing Pig Guitars, the home of luxury shred machines here in Nottingham, England. My name is Keightley and today we're doing a Battle of the Brands episode. As I mentioned in the intro, of course we're shooting out a Gibson ES335 64 reissue with a Collings i30. They're both similarly priced guitars. The Collings comes in around £5,699, whereas the Gibson ES335 is a little bit cheaper, around the £4.5K mark. So it's going to make for a very interesting video today as we shoot out these two American-made instruments. This video is going to be split up into chapters for your viewing pleasure. If you'd like to skip past my blabbing in this episode, then just scroll down below to see the tones. But first off, let's talk about the specs of both of these guitars. So guys, it's time to go over the specs of the Collings i30. Of course, it's a very pretty guitar with some lovely wood grain all over. So this guitar is completely hollow. As you can see, it's so light by how I'm moving this guitar around. And the only thing that you have inside the guitar is trestle bracing to keep up the top. And of course, we have this beautiful maple on the top. On the back, it also says maple on the website, but this almost looks like walnut with the way that it's been finished. So I'm a bit unsure whether it's walnut or maple, but you guys can let me know in the comment section below. But of course, we have that lovely sunburst finish. Such a classic look, very reminiscent of the early days of Gibson. Moving on to the neck, we have a Honduran mahogany neck with a nice kind of slim C profile. It's a nice rounded neck profile, a little bit more rounded than the Gibson. We have a rosewood fingerboard with ivory binding and black side dots. We then have the Collings headstock, which is a very interesting design with Collings tuners with the ivory buttons. I really love these tuners, by the way, they look amazing. Then we have the Lola dog ear P90s, a three-way switch, 2 volumes, 2 tones, and then the trapeze style tailpiece and an ABR1 style wired bridge. So that is the specs of the Collings. So let's have a look at the Gibson. So I'm sure lots of you guys already know the specs of a Gibson 335 from this era. I've gone over them quite a few times. Obviously, it's a lot heavier of an instrument, even though it is semi-hollow. You obviously have that big maple center block, which is going to add a little bit of weight to the guitar, but it's still a very nice guitar. Less figuring on this one, it's very plain top, but we do have that three-tone sunburst. You have a little bit of red peeking in there. Obviously, it's the electric Spanish model, so we have a maple laminate top, we have a maple laminate side and back, and that's sandwiched between maple, poplar, maple, and it's all over the guitar. As I mentioned, we have a center block of maple in this guitar. We then have a mahogany neck. Again, doesn't have as much figuring as the Collings, but it's still very nice. A nice kind of slim 64 profile, a little bit flatter than the Collings, but probably similar thickness. We have a rosewood fingerboard with some really nice streaking to it. And then we have the mini block inlays, which are just awesome and very reminiscent of that Clapton, George Harrison spec. Moving on, of course, we have the Gibson logo on the headstock with the crown inlay, and then we have the Gibson Clouson style tuners. Moving on, we have the unpotted Alnico free custom buckers, we have the ABR1 bridge with the nylon saddles and the aluminium stop tailpiece, three-way switch, 2 volumes, 2 tones with the reflector style knobs and your typical shorter pick guard. So now that we've gone over the specs of both guitars, let's go to the tone comparison. So guys, now it's time for the tone comparison between the Gibson ES335 64 reissue and the beautiful Collings i30. As you heard in the intro to today's videos, both of these guitars have that classic blues sound, but which one will be victorious? Well, in today's video, we're gonna find out. For today's tone comparison, I'm using the 2-Rock Bloomfield Drive mic'd up with a Audio-Technica condenser microphone, and on the floor I have a compressor and a tube screamer from the Kemper Profile unit. I'm basically gonna play the same riff on each guitar and then cut between them so you can hear an A-B comparison. So let's start off on the lead gain channel on that slightly distorted channel and just hear the neck pickup. So first off, I can tell that this guitar is way more resonant than the 335. It's also a lot lighter. As you can see, I'm basically just like, throwing this guitar around as if it's paper. Obviously, it's a fully hollow body and it's got P90, so it does sound quite different to the 335. But the neck is a little bit more rounded. I initially said that the 335 was slightly slimmer, but I just think this is more rounded, but it's still quite a small neck. I also prefer the tuners. But so far, really loving the tone from this guitar. It's got that really nice kind of bluesy. Of course, today is not just about how these guitars differ in tone, but it's also about the feel and the way that the instrument inspires my playing. Of course, they both have different pickup sets, so they're obviously going to sound different. They've got different body sizes. For me, though, I've wanted to do this comparison for a long time between a Gibson and a Collings because people really hype up Collings and say they're one of the best guitar builders ever, and obviously Gibson have also got a very good reputation. However, these custom buckers are quite bright in nature, as are the P90s, so I do think the tone is quite similar, regardless of the fact that these are humbuckers and they're P90s. Now let's hear the middle position so we can hear them sparkly tones on this guitar. So you can hear that obviously this guitar is a lot brighter. If you were to reduce some of the tone controls, you are going to get a very similar sound to the humbucker. To show, P90s, in my opinion, are some of the most versatile pickups on the planet. You can get a really, really bright tone, but then you can bring that tone control back and emulate a humbucker very nicely. And of course, this guitar, as you can hear, it's got very little hum to it. It's a very nice sounding guitar, even with the P90s. Well, I have to say both of them guitars sound awesome on that setting. The 2-Rock Bloomfield Drive is just in that perfect sweet spot between clean and distortion. It's got a really nice tone. Finally, let's hear the bridge pickup on both guitars. So now let's see how both guitars react with a little bit of a higher gain tone. So I've put a tube screamer on, I've turned down the tone control a little bit, but the volume is on 10. Now let's hear some crystal clean jazz tones. And finally, let's finish with some fuzz tones. So that is the end of the tone demonstration, guys. Let's go to the outro of the video where I reveal the winner of today's video. So guys, it's the end of the video, so it's time to reveal the winner from today's episode. As you can see behind me, I've got the Gibson 335 to my left, and then I've got the Collings i30 to my right. Today's video has been a very interesting one. I really thoroughly enjoyed playing both guitars, but they are completely different beasts, and I'm sure lots of you guys were already expecting that clicking on today's video. If I'm being completely honest, I actually thought these guitars would perform very similar and actually sound quite similar as well, but I found that obviously wasn't the case. So first off, the i30, incredibly resonant guitar, nice and snappy, a great jazz guitar and blues guitar, and it's got P90s, which are some of my favorite pickups, so they just sounded incredible in the room. Likewise with the 335, obviously you got the PAF kind of custom bucker clones. Obviously it's a bit of a thicker body, it's a little bit more traditional feeling in terms of like a vintage Gibson, definitely a darker tone, but had a similar response in the room, but definitely less resonant than the i30. Obviously both guitars look incredible as well. But really the question that you guys are asking is which one did I prefer to play, which one did I think sounded better, and which one inspired my guitar playing? So in terms of clean stuff, blues stuff, I'm gonna give the winning point to the i30. It was more resonant because of the P90s as well. I had a little bit more versatility with the tones. So especially for jazz stuff, blues stuff, I was able to really dial in the response I wanted. However, for the fuzz and high gain tones, I'm gonna have to give it to the old traditional ES335. And the reason for that is obviously it doesn't feed back as much. As much as I was having fun with the Collings, as you can see by me kind of throwing the guitar up towards the amp to get more feedback, in a live environment or even in this type of environment where I have the amps very loud, that's very uncontrollable feedback, which you can sometimes use to your advantage, but in other areas is not gonna be ideal. So the Collings i30 for me is an ideal studio guitar or an ideal kind of practice guitar where you're playing at lower volumes. However, with the higher gain and fuzz tones, the ES335 is definitely gonna be the winner. So with all of that taken into consideration, who is the winner of today's video? I have to say, I'm very shocked, but the winner of today's episode is the Collings i30, which I definitely didn't think was gonna be the case when I reviewed these two guitars. This guitar is an absolute resonant beast, and I really enjoyed playing on it today. It's a little bit smaller and obviously more in vein of an ES330, which I probably should have compared instead of a 335. But I really enjoyed this one today. I think it's just made that little bit better. It is a little bit more of an expensive guitar. I like the tuners, the rosewood fingerboard's nice and figured, and it just looks incredible. Mainly for me, it was the tone of these P90s that really won it over for me. So I'd love to do a comparison where I compare it against an ES330. Of course, the ES335 is an absolute staple, one of my favorite guitars of all time. But in today's particular demo between these two guitars, I'm gonna go with the i30. As always, guys, let me know in the comments section below, what do you think of the Collings i30 and what do you think of the ES335? Which one did you prefer? Which one did you prefer the sound of? Which one did you prefer the look of? Let me know everything down below. I love chatting to you guys in the comment section below. And whilst you're down there, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video. And if you're new to Squealing Pig Guitars, smash that subscribe button. YouTube tells us that 70% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, so make sure to hit that subscribe button to not miss out on future content. I really hope you've enjoyed this Battle of Brands video. If you'd like to see more comparisons between brands, then let me know which guitars I should review next time in the comment section below. But as always, guys, my name is Ben Keightley. Thank you so much for watching Squealing Pig Guitars, and I'll see you tomorrow for another episode. But until then, keep rocking, guys. I'll see you soon.